Whistleblowers serve as an essential agent in uncovering actually corruption and misconduct within organizations. Their actions actually do expose activities such as bribery, embezzlement, money laundering, and other illicit practices, ultimately contributing to the dismantling of corruption networks. Notably, whistleblower disclosures have resulted in the recovery of substantial amounts in fraud cases, thereby safeguarding taxpayers' funds and also ensuring that justice is served. However, many have also been vilified and their personal safety put at risk. Well, joining me on the program this evening to discuss this is Mark Adebayo, is the national spokesperson for the Coalition of United Opposition Political Parties. He joins virtually from Abuja. Thank you for your time, Mark.
Dakwa, thank you so much for having me. Good evening, viewers.
All right, good evening, Mark. Great to, of course, have you join me on the program. Now, let's go far back as 2016, where we know that something called the Whistleblower Protection, policy was actually proposed, in the National Assembly. And the fact that this particular conversation, recently has been at top gear. What do you make of Nigeria's, commitment in this direction?
Well, one of the key elements of the whistleblowing, act and the initiative is the fact that the whistleblower will have some kind of a regime of protection and secrecy by the government and the relevant agencies. But you see, the witness protection regime of the whistleblower initiative and the reward system are extremely poor or even non-existent. If you remember, in 2017, the whistleblower on the Osmond Towers, Ikoyi, $43.5 million US, 27,800 pounds, and 23.2 million naira. That the whistleblower exposed. At the end of the day, what happened to him? Now, he was crying out that he has not been rewarded and that this and that. And then what did we see? The EFCC lawyer came out and said the guy was a madman. Suddenly, a whistleblower became a mad person. So all these are disincentives towards the commitment of Nigerians to the whistleblowing, activity. Now, the EFCC has a mantra: see something, see something, say something, do something. But when the citizens see something and try to say something and to do something about it, but that citizen is not well protected, is not well rewarded, what do? Corruption will continue to win. Corruption will continue to superimpose itself on the mentality of Nigerians. And of course, you see that the whistleblowing activity and commitment of Nigerians went down the drain because those who have come out to do the whistleblowing are not being seen as being adequately rewarded or even unprotected. Because at some point, in some instances, even these witnesses, these whistleblowers are exposed to the criminals by some of the security agencies. So it becomes, you have to protect your life. Everybody now is now business as usual. You see somebody, a councillor building mansions, that are way beyond his monthly take home and the allowances. But you can't say anything because you also want to protect your life. So it has been a disincentive to Nigerians to do the whistleblowing. That's why it has factually fizzled out. The witness protection regimen is very bad. The reward system is extremely poor or even non-existent. So if you say you are going to give 5% of recoverable stolen assets to the whistleblower, but at the end of the day, after risking his life, after doing everything to now compile evidence and give to you, at the end of the day, he's unrewarded and it's not even protected. It becomes an issue. Nobody will want to join that kind of patriotic endeavor to be able to safeguard our country from corrupt elements.
So okay, let's also talk about the issue.
Protected and you are not rewarded.
One key thing you've been able to establish is an issue of trust here. And you made reference to a mantra: if you see something, say something. We have cases where some Nigerians would say, they better be quiet because they are not sure of the eventual outcome. And that brings, to the fore the issue of trust. Has the system, been able to create, well, I call it a process right now, whereby people can effectively say, you know what, I trust the system to not just reward me, but also ensure that my safety, even my identity, is not revealed?
There's a systemic challenge in that respect. The issue of protection is not even there. It's like zero. Because, the 2017 Osborne issue, has exposed the system, has not been able, as unable to protect, the whistleblowers, to the extent that, imagine coming to the public by the EFCC to be arguing and entry into controversy with somebody who's a whistleblower that is supposed to be unknown, that is supposed not to have a face or name to his or her identity. Now it became a media issue. So from that point onward, a lot of Nigerians felt that look, it's better I do what is called in Nigeria as Sidon look. So Sidon look is better I protect myself rather than lose my life or any member of my family due to trying to engage in a patriotic endeavor to expose corruption and corrupt individuals. So, it becomes a disincentive for any Nigerian to want to go into that venture. That's why he died a quick natural death. The whistleblowing activity initiative died a quick natural death. It's quite, or let me call it unnatural death, because people, there is no absolute, the issue of trust, there is absolutely zero trust in the system. And you cannot blame Nigerians for having zero trust in the system, because the system is not trustworthy, the system is not solid, the system is unstable, the system is in tatters. So that is it. There's a lot of contradictions in the system, which make it impossible for any citizen to trust the system. Not only just the anti-corruption initiative, but also even the governance system in the country. We have a lot of systemic issues that are drawing us back as a country, as a nation, and as a people. So the same thing with this anti-corruption initiative. If not for the fact that the system is so weak and compromisable, a lot of Nigerians, because every day we see corruption staring on the faces, we see the process of corruption being, flaunted in the faces of Nigerians. A lot of people will have come forward to expose a lot of these corrupt officials, and then corruption will have been reduced by at least 70% in our country today, if the whistleblowing initiative had been allowed to function as it should be. But now, I don't think anybody was blowing anything again, except for a few committed anti-corruption agencies that, non-governmental organizations that still engage with EFCs and ICPC and write petitions and the rest of that. Even at that, all the activists, the anti-corruption activists that are doing this are also risking their lives. It is just because some of the activists have developed this skin to the threats of violence against them, against their family and their businesses and interests. Right. Now, look, we just have to do
I want to come in here, particularly on the aspect of, you talked about activists here. So that will lead me to my next question as regards activists and even investigative journalists who are trying to sort of sanitize the system, who do their jobs, and who expose misconduct within the system. Now, we've seen cases where quite a number of them are vilified. I mean, an ongoing one is the arrest of PDOM, for instance, and David O'Day, being placed on watch list, in the country. And one would ask, at what point, does the issue, because most of the time when, this arrests are conducted, there's usually the umbrella of national security, and that creates a fine line. So at what point is this crossed?
Well, you see, look, in a system with an atrocious systemic malaise like Nigeria, you see a lot of crises, even when they are trying to do something that is supposed to be good, something that is supposed to be helpful to the country. Now, at what point? It's almost a part of our body politic since flag independence in 1960, that the system is so chaotic that it cannot be trusted. There is no organization. They are not organized. There is no coordinated organization in terms of maintaining witness protection. Even aside from corruption cases, even when you want to report murder, if you want to report thuggery, if you want to report, for instance, all these issues of ethnocentric anti-parties all over the country, where some people are planning to attack some people and the rest of that. If you go to the police to report, there are instances where people have come out that it's the people, they have reported the crime, and then the criminals have come to either kill them, or attack them, or attack their families. So there's no trust on the system, there's no trust on the security agencies, there's no trust on the government by the citizens. And that is because of the pedigree of the government activities and misconduct of not behaving themselves in a trustworthy manner. The security agencies that are supposed to protect you are likely to be the ones, to leak your name, your identity, your address, and everything about you to the criminals that are supposed to be under investigation. And so that is where, like I keep saying, the disincentive for the people to rise up and say, look, I've seen something, I want to say something, I want to do something. Because the system, aside from even rewarding you, the system does not protect you. The system will rather protect the corrupt rather than protect the whistleblower. That is where the dilemma is. So you cannot blame Nigerians for that. Under these atrocious economic and social situations, and for somebody to go and risk his life and the life of his family just because he wants to be patriotic. It doesn't work that way. So
I would like you to speak specifically. I would like you to speak on this specifically, within the context of the case of Pidom and David Udein, for instance.
Well, you can see that even the system of the press, the freedom of the press is under threat under a supposedly democratic government. The freedom of the press is under threat. The freedom of speech is under threat. The freedom of people to be able to freely express themselves is under threat in Nigeria under a supposedly democratic government. Now, by a president that's supposed to be a pro-democracy in his own right. So what are we seeing now? There's a deliberate effort to put fears into the media, to put fears into the mind of the citizens not to be able to talk, even when they see things going wrong. But something about it is about activists in Nigeria, the activist communities in Nigeria, the opposition groups in Nigeria have decided that we are not going to allow any government, anybody, any individual, any agency to gag us. The Office of the National Security Advisor cannot gag us. The presidency cannot gag us. The police cannot gag us. DSS cannot gag us, because we have a right that is protected under the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. So it is in this wise that Nigerian citizens must remain relentless in making sure that we protect our right to be able to speak out when things are going wrong, to be able to speak out when the system is running things down, to be able to speak out when the government is not doing well, to be able to speak out when we see that the governance system in this country is bad, when there's hunger in the land, when there's scarcity in the land, and when there's misrule in the land. The people must be determined that we will not keep quiet, and we should not keep quiet. We must continue to speak against bad governance. We must continue to speak against bad economy. We must be able to.
Talking about freedom of expression, that will still take me to my question of, because we've seen cases where the government would say that at some point it becomes a threat to national security. So I'm still going to ask you again: is there any point this right becomes a threat to the security of the nation?
Yeah, you see, look, there are instances where people actually go, maybe to try to cross the red line and some other things like that, but those ones are far in between. Unfortunately, in Nigeria today, even for you to open your mouth and say that I am hungry, it becomes treasonable felony to the current government. Even for you to open your mouth and say, oh, the prices of fuel are too high, it becomes treasonable felony. What they are claiming to be treason is the criticism of the bad policies of government. So yes, if for instance, you become a treasonable felon if you now expose the security interests of Nigeria to external forces. But nobody has done that yet in the country. What I've seen being done, Pidom and co, is the fact to just expose the bad things that are happening in government by government people, to which they are not very, very favorable, and they just want to, they just want to gag people from talking. They want to now criminalize. It's an attempt to criminalize the freedom of speech and freedom of the press. So, and we should not agree to that. We should not agree to that. There are many people in government today who cannot ever be able to account for all the properties and the money they have amassed in this country. They build mansions, they build schools, they buy flashy, luxurious cars and the rest of that, for which many of them, if not most of them, if not all of them, have their children studying abroad. So many who ordinarily if you look at their salaries and allowances, should not be able to even afford private schools in Nigeria. Their children are studying abroad in UK, in US, in Canada, in Sweden, and Denmark, all over Europe and America. So they cannot be able to account for that. And it's part of the responsibility of Nigerians to be able to say that, look, we believe that our councillor, our chairman, our governor, our minister, our commissioner, our president should not have the kind of asset he has based on the allowances and salaries he collects as a public official.
Okay.
But if you say that, they say you are committing treasonable felony. I would not support anybody, for instance, let me give an instance, for anybody calling for military takeover, for instance, that will be crossing the line. That will be treasonable. And it will be treasonous, and people like that should actually be prosecuted. You cannot be calling for a military takeover within the democracy. When you go there, then you have crossed the line. There's every right has its own limitations too. So we should be careful as Nigerians to act patriotically.
All right. I mean, I'm going to still stay on that, but this time around, I'm going to, sort of paint a context, particularly, as regards the aspect of the role of social media. Would you say social media has further, sort of boosted this? So has it been, dealt a deadly blow in that regard?
Now, one thing about Nigerians is that we are extremely, we are resilient. I do not think they have dealt any deadly blow to the social media operations in Nigeria. If anything, especially the youth are going to grow more stubborn and are going to grow more determined to continue to do what they need to do, as they have their rights to also contribute. But when you are criticizing the system, what you are doing is that you are actually contributing to the development of the country. As a patriot, as a Nigerian who knows that he wants the best for his country. So I don't think so. All I want to say about social media is that we should learn, everybody should learn to use social media responsibly. And then let us do everything to make sure that fake news is discouraged. And then we don't use social media to bully the people, to bully, to engage in inter-ethnic antipathies and crises and acrimonies. We should not misuse the social media because the social media is the in thing now. It has the capacity to mobilize the people for good or for bad. So we must learn to mobilize ourselves for the good of the country and for the good of humanity. That is what I would say about the issue of social media usage.
I mean, you also talked about the fact that social media, I mean, some have used it as, a platform to bully and do all sorts. A direct question to you is, do you think the government should control social media?
I do not believe that government should, quote unquote, control social media. I believe that there should be some kind of, because all over the world now, even including US and co, they are trying to find a way to legislate about social media activities. That there are things you should not be doing on social media, because if it goes against the interest of the country, the government cannot keep quiet and be looking at you to just misbehave about that. So the word control is too strident in a democratic setting. Guidelines, okay, fine. Guidelines. You can set guidelines that people should operate, within, or certain areas like exposing the security of your country, like doing things that putting out information that can compromise the security of your country. Those things should not be engaged in. And then you see, when you have a good government in place, the people have no reason to be vilifying their government or vilifying their country. You understand? But when you have a government that operates within an atrocious environment, that creates a socio-economic, an atrocious socio-economic environment for the people, what you see, you get pushback from the people. And sometimes people may overreact. It is the overreaction that you are seeing as a result of the pain from the chaotic misjudgment of government policies, that you see that people now react in a way that seems like they are overdoing things and are crossing the line. Sincerely, Nigerians are under pressure. We are under severe socio-economic pressure. And then, of course, at some point, you will not be able to blame people for overreacting, whether on social media or on the streets. That's where we have found ourselves. You see, the system, the government, and the politicians in power are pushing the people towards desperate solution to the problem of the country. And when you push the people to the extent they are now desperate and looking for solution, it can also become counterproductive to the security, welfare, and development of the country. The government is to blame for all of that.
All right. Now, I'm still going to stay with you on the issue of social media. You said maybe the word control might be a bit too stringent. So let's maybe use the word manage. Now, situations whereby sensitive materials, for instance, just go out there. And we know that social media is global, right? The audience is worldwide. Now, you talked about sensitive materials, maybe that might be of, security importance, for instance, just being put out there, for the world to see and all. How do you suggest that this can be better managed, such that as much as, yes, we all have a right to freedom, which is a fundamental right, at the end of the day, those that may want to use that, caveat to go overboard are placed, in check?
Well, you see, like for instance, now I would not be able to. It's not about. It's because there's a. If you begin to now use your right criminally, for a criminal enterprise, activity, then you are no longer exercising your right. You are becoming a criminal. For instance, if you lay your hands on the comprehensive plan of action for the military to go after the bandits and the terrorists that have been disturbing the country, and you are able to lay your hands on those. On that type of document where step by step, action by action has been tabulated on how they want to deal with the Boko Haram terrorists and other terrorists, ISWAP and co, and the bandits and the kidnappers that are ravaging the country. You lay your hands on that, and then you now put down on social media. You are not a patriot, you are a criminal, and you should go down for that. You should go down for that. But if you now discover that 10 houses belonging to a minister in Dubai, 20 houses belonging to a governor in Canada or somewhere that that is far beyond his far beyond the means of his livelihood, and now you are able to get the documents to support that argument, you put that one on social media, then you are a patriot, you are not a criminal. But anything that has to do with compromising the security and the well-being and welfare of the country, then you become a criminal. So that we must know that there are certain limits that you don't go beyond. There are certain limits you don't go beyond. But if you have documents or how some people are stealing the money meant for fighting security, for fighting against insecurity in the country, and you expose that, and the people and personalities behind that, then you are a patriot, but not the security system to tackle, insurgency and criminality in the country. So that is it. Once you don't cross that line, you are within the law, you are within your rights as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to be able to expose corruption and corrupt officials, but not anything that will affect negatively, that impact negatively against the security and welfare and the well-being of the country. That is that.
All right. Now let's talk about policy reforms or policy initiatives you feel can better enhance an efficient whistleblowing system, such that, number one, irrespective of the circumstance, the individuals involved, the whistleblower is protected. How do you suggest that the National Assembly can go about it, and what critical items do you think should be embedded inside that initiative?
Well, I think the number one thing is for, if I'm talking about legislation now by the National Assembly, is to make the Whistleblowers Act more robust in terms of witness protection regime, that the whistleblower is protected, and the heads of security agencies must be mandated that at whatever time or under whatever circumstances that a whistleblower has approached you to say this, from that moment, it is your responsibility to protect that person. Failure to protect that person becomes a crime on your part, and then you'll be made answerable for that. If that happens, you will see that the heads of police, DSS and co, and the NSA and co, they will sit up. They will sit up. And then if you have a legal framework that ensures that whistleblowers are adequately rewarded, the 5% must be given to them, not 4%, not 4.5%, not 1%, not 0%. So that will encourage this whistleblowing activity. And if I must say this, whistleblowing will have helped us a lot in this country, in the area of anti-corruption, in the area of insecurity, in the area, because the citizens will now they will buy into the system and they'll be part of the system. People will now become like auxiliary security agents, that will be helping the security agencies. The security agencies need whistleblowers more than they can even trust their own personnel. Without that, we don't have enough personnel to even police the country in every area, whether in the area of EFCC, the police, the army, or even the NDLEA. So you need the citizens to back you up. You see, that is why when the country declares war, every citizen of that country becomes a soldier, because you need the people, you need the support of the people, you need the moral support of the people, you need the financial support of the people, you need the material support of the people, so that to boost the morale of the troops in the battlefield. If you don't have the support of your people, you already lost the war. That is why in this whistleblowing venture, all Nigerians must be carried along. We must be encouraged by way you treat your whistleblowers, by way you reward your whistleblowers. It will go a long way in killing corruption in this country. It will go a long way in killing insecurity in this country.
Mr.
If you see something,
Adebayo,
you'll be able to say something and you'll be able to do something about it.
All right, Mr. Adebayo, thank you so much for your time, and we sincerely appreciate your take on this matter. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Dako. Thank you.
All right.